You finally hit six figures, and your bank account looks exactly the same as it did when you earned half that. Same stress before payday. Same, where did it go feeling on the 28th. Same $20 sitting in checking like it's guarding the door. Here's the thing nobody tells you. That's not a coincidence. And it's not really about your spending habits either, even though every so-called finance teacher on the internet wants to sell you a budgeting app that says it is. There is an actual, invisible mathematical system running in the background of your income. It doesn't care how hard you worked for that raise. Its entire function is to make sure that raise disappears before you notice it's gone. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the 4 exact leaks, with real numbers, not theory, and then I'm going to show you the one number you should be calculating instead of your salary. Because right now, you're not building wealth. You're running on a treadmill. And the treadmill was never designed to let you off. Stick around. Leak number 3 is the one almost nobody sees coming, and it's probably costing you more than the other 3 combined. Let's start with a question. When you crossed 6 figures, did your life actually change? For most people, the honest answer is barely. And that's strange, right? $100,000 used to mean something. It was the finish line, the number that meant made it. So why does it feel like a starting block instead? There's a psychological concept for this, and it's called money illusion. It's the tendency of your brain to judge your wealth by the number on the screen, not by what that number can actually buy. Your brain sees $100,000 and files it under success, using a mental reference point that's honestly about 20 years out of date. Meanwhile, the real, purchasing power version of that number has been quietly shrinking every single year. Here's the part that stings. You didn't just fail to get richer, you actually changed categories. A generation ago, hitting 6 figures meant you were building equity. A house, a paid-off car, investments that compounded while you slept. Today, a huge share of that same income goes to subscriptions, streaming, software, car payments that never end because you leased instead of owned, meal kits, apps that rent you a slightly better version of your own life, one monthly charge at a time. You didn't become an owner. You became a renter of a lifestyle, and renters don't build equity. They just keep the lights on. So if the salary isn't the problem, what is? Let's follow the money to where it actually leaks. And the first leak is one most people have never even heard of. Quick question. Do you know what your salary is actually worth? Not what it says on your offer letter. What it's worth after your city takes its cut. Because in 2026, that gap has become brutal. Take San Francisco. Its cost of living index sits at roughly 195, meaning it's about twice the national average. New York isn't far behind, around 197. A one-bedroom in Manhattan now averages close to $4,900 a month. Add New York's combined city and state income tax, which can stack up to nearly 15% on top of federal tax for high earners. And here's the uncomfortable math. Multiple cost of living researchers now say you need somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000 in a city like San Francisco or New York just to live a life that would feel comfortably middle class in a mid-size American city. Read that again. 6 figures isn't wealthy in a Tier 1 city. It's the entry fee. And here's the trap within the trap. The highest-paying jobs are disproportionately located in exactly these cities. So the raise that was supposed to change your life is being taxed twice, once by the government and once by geography, before you've spent a single dollar on something fun. But it doesn't stop at rent. There's a second, quieter cost economists call the cost of professional proximity. The commute that eats 2 hours a day, the wardrobe that has to look a certain way for a certain office, the takeout ordered because you're too depleted to cook after that commute, the cleaning service, the dog walker, all the domestic labor you now outsource because your high-paying job consumed the time you used to spend doing it yourself. Add it up, and researchers who study this have a blunt way of putting it. A 6-figure salary in a high-cost metro can leave you with less real savings than an $85,000 salary in a lower-cost city like Austin or Raleigh. So your salary isn't halved by bad luck. It's halved by a system where the jobs that pay the most are deliberately clustered in the places that cost the most. That's leak number 1. Now here's leak number 2. And this one isn't about geography at all. It's about your brain. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When's the last time you upgraded something? Your car, your apartment, your gym, your kid's school, and told yourself it was a choice. Here's the twist. For most high earners, it wasn't. Lifestyle creep isn't really a series of choices. It's closer to a social tax you didn't know you were being billed for. Psychologists call the underlying mechanism hedonic adaptation. Your brain's habit of resetting its baseline for happiness every time your circumstances improve. The $80 dinner that used to feel like a splurge becomes routine. The apartment that used to feel spacious starts to feel small. Nothing about the object changed. Your reference point moved. And it's not happening in a vacuum. It's being actively engineered. Algorithmic marketing today is hyper-targeted. The ads, the influencer content, the people like you also bought prompts are all calibrated to your exact income bracket, showing you a version of normal that's precisely, deliberately out of reach until you spend more to close the gap. This is social comparison theory turned into a business model. You're not comparing yourself to your neighborhood anymore. You're comparing yourself to a curated feed of people who look like you but spend more than you. And here's the part that makes this genuinely unfair. Not just a discipline problem. For essentials, not luxuries, the floor itself has risen. Quality childcare, decent healthcare, a school you'd trust with your kid. The acceptable minimum for these things has gotten more expensive faster than wages have. So even the version of you that refuses every algorithmic nudge, who drives the same car for 10 years, still gets squeezed because the baseline cost of just being a responsible adult with kids has moved. You're not weak-willed. You're being outspent by a system that profits every time your baseline moves. That's leak number 2. Now, leak number 3. I told you this one was the sneaky one. This is where the math actually gets invisible. Here's a number that should stop you. The average credit card interest rate in 2026 is sitting around 21 to 22%. Some cards are north of 25. Now here's the question almost nobody asks. What does a 22% interest rate actually mean for a six-figure earner? It means this. Every dollar of revolving debt you're carrying needs to earn 22% before it even breaks even. Your salary isn't competing against your expenses anymore. It's competing against compound interest working against you, 24 hours a day while you sleep. The average household carrying a balance now owes close to $11,000, and at today's rates, that's not a temporary inconvenience. Some researchers now calculate that minimum payments on a balance like that can take over a decade to clear, and cost more in total interest than the original amount borrowed. Here's the twist most people miss, though, and it's genuinely counterintuitive. It's not low earners who carry the biggest dollar balances. It's high earners. Why? Because the exact same success that got you the raise also got you the higher credit limit. A bigger income doesn't just buy more house. It qualifies you for more debt, faster, with fewer questions asked. Your income didn't just grow. Your capacity for financial obligation grew right alongside it, like a shadow you can't see in daylight. And this collides head-on with the housing market. Even qualifying for a mortgage on six figures doesn't guarantee it makes sense. You can earn enough to technically clear the bar and still not have enough left over to actually build equity once you account for the rate environment, insurance, taxes, and the maintenance costs nobody puts in the brochure. Economists have a name for the broader pattern: household debt service. The share of your take-home pay, eaten by debt payments before you spend a dollar on anything else, has been climbing for years, and increasingly, it's not the mortgage doing the damage. It's revolving, high-interest consumer debt. So think about what that means. A higher income didn't give you more safety, it gave you more rope. And in this rate environment, more rope, used the way most of us are taught to use it, just means a longer fall. 3 leaks down. Tax geography, invisible social drift, high-interest debt riding shotgun with your income. All 4, we started with bracket creep, and I want to close that loop right now. Because the truth here is more interesting than the popular version of this story. Quick honesty check, because I promised you this would hold up to scrutiny. You'll hear a lot of finance content say, bracket creep is silently taxing your raises. Here's the real story. The IRS actually adjusts the width of most tax brackets for inflation every single year. For 2026, thresholds moved up by roughly 2.7%, specifically to stop inflation-only raises from pushing you into a higher rate. So the headline brackets are mostly protected. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Dozens of other thresholds inside the tax code are not indexed the same way, or phase out at fixed dollar amounts that haven't moved in years. Certain credit phase-outs, surtax thresholds, deduction limits that only kick in once you cross into six-figure territory. The tax code doesn't creep on you through the front door anymore. It creeps through a dozen side doors you've never heard of, each one triggered the moment your income crosses an arbitrary line that never moves. That's the real invisible math. Not one big leak, 4 separate systems, each individually small, each defensible on its own, all draining the same account. Individually, none of them looks like a crisis. Combined, they're the entire reason 6 figures feels like 50 grand. So here's the real question, the one this whole video has been building to. If your salary isn't the problem, what number should you actually be tracking? Stop calculating your worth in gross annual income. It's the least honest number in your financial life. It's the number designed to make you feel successful while telling you nothing about whether you're actually getting ahead. Here's the number that matters instead. Your real hourly net rate, what you actually keep per hour worked, after taxes, after the geography tax, after debt service, after the cost of maintaining the job that pays you. Calculate that number once, honestly, and most high earners are shocked at how small it is. Some discover they're netting less per hour than they were 3 promotions ago. They just have a scarier job title and a more expensive car to show for it. Once you can see that number, the response isn't spend less on coffee. It's structural. 3 moves, in order. 1. Decouple deliberately. Not everything the algorithm shows you as normal for your income is actually necessary. Pick your 2 or 3 non-negotiables and let everything else fall below your peer group's baseline, on purpose. That's not deprivation. That's the only lever that actually works against a system engineered to move your baseline for you. 2. Attack the highest interest obligation first, always, before you optimize anything else. No investment return reliably beats a guaranteed 22% cost of capital. Paying that down isn't boring. It's the single highest return move available to you this year. 3. Convert cash flow into assets that don't creep. Every dollar that isn't servicing debt or funding a genuine non-negotiable should be moving towards something that owns you equity. Index funds, retirement accounts, real assets, not another subscription that quietly renews itself for the rest of your life. The goal isn't a bigger number on your paycheck. It's a number that survives contact with your actual life. That's the entire difference between running the treadmill and finally stepping off it. Let's run it back, because this only works if it sticks. Leak 1. Your salary is worth less than it looks, because the highest paying jobs sit in the highest cost cities. Leak 2. Your baseline keeps moving, because comparison is being engineered, not chosen. Leak 3. Your income buys you more debt capacity, not more safety. And today's rates punish that harder than ever. Leak 4. The tax code doesn't creep where you're watching. It creeps through the side doors. 4 separate systems. 1 shared result. A 6-figure income that behaves like a $50,000 one. You're not bad with money. You were handed a rigged scoreboard and told to feel guilty for not winning on it. If this reframed how you think about your income, the next step is simple. Calculate your own real hourly net rate this week. Not your salary divided by 2,080 hours. Your salary minus the geography tax, minus debt service, minus the invisible cost of the job itself, divided by the hours you actually gave it. Write that number down. It's uncomfortable. It's also the most useful number you'll calculate all year. Subscribe if you want the next video, where I actually build that calculation live, number by number, so you can run it on your own income before the end of the month. Because the treadmill only keeps you running as long as you can't see it. Now you can.